Okay, good. So I want to do a little section here where we talk about the Taoist perspective on, you could say, cosmology. So I'm going to bring the camera up closer to the blackboard here. Okay, so in the Taoist way of looking at things, you sort of have four divisions in a metaphysical cosmology. And we know the names of some of them, and I've supplied the names of others. So this one up here is Wu Chi, Bija, Tai Chi, Wan Wu. All right. Yesterday we were talking about Wu Ji. So each of these, the reason there's four circles here is each of these has a symbol that is inside a circle. All right. Hold on a second. So each of these has a symbol that's inside a circle. You actually know two of them, and you're going to know all four of them shortly. So what is the symbol for Wu Ji? Jill, what is the symbol for Wu Ji?
No idea.
What is
Water?
the symbol? What is the symbol for Tai Chi?
The yin yang.
The yin yang symbol, right? And we'll just simplify it with lines here. So, what is the meaning of Tai Chi? What is the literal translation?
The the dome of the house.
Yes, you're right, Catherine. So maybe we won't make it quite so literal. We'll make it a little more metaphoric, right? So the word Ji refers or used to refer to the ridgepole of a house. The word Tai, this is actually two words, Tai and Ji, Taiji. Tai means great or extreme, the most, right? So it's the most ridgepole. We might translate that, it is translated into English as extreme limits or the great limits. What are the great limits? Yin and yang, right? Those are, everything fits under that umbrella, right? So let's use great limits. Okay, if Taiji is great limits, what is Wuji? Wuji is also two words, Wu and Ji. Ji refers to the ridgepole of a house, or we might translate that into English as limits. What does Wu mean?
No, zero.
No. So it means no limits.
Mm.
So if this is the symbol for the great limits, yin and yang, the most extreme limits, the sort of pure categories, what would the symbol be for no limits? Yeah, Kevin.
And that's it there, the empty circle.
It's an empty circle. Exactly. Okay. They use this, you guys may be familiar with this from a Japanese tradition, a Japanese Zen tradition, where Zen masters do a a drawing on paper every morning with a brush. They dip it in ink, and they make one big circle with one motion, no thought and one motion. That's it. And they never touch it again. Whatever happens is what happens. Right? That circle's called an enso. And it's exactly the same, and it means the same as Wu Ji. Now, often Wu Ji and the enso are translated into English, and the Buddhist tradition, I can't remember, the name will come back to me. It's often translated into English as the void. It's void. But that is misleading, because the word void in English, shunyata, right? Emptiness. It means, in English it means nothing, and it leads to a kind of nihilism, and that's not at all what it means. Right? We'll go into that maybe later on another day, but, all right? Let's just say for right now, it's no limits. Okay, how do you get from here to here? Well, you're going to have to go through here. All right? Bija is actually a Sanskrit word. It means a seed. A seed, S-E-E-D. All right, so like a little seed that you grow a plant from. And that really indicates Wuji, no limits. There's no space, there's no time, there's no movement. It's what it is, and it never changes. This, as you can see, is all about change. It's all about yang turning into yin and yin turning into yang. It's about our world that's constantly changing. It never sits still. It's always changing. What's the symbol for the stage in between Wuji and Taiji? What is a seed?
Little dot.
A little dot, exactly. Right? It's just a little dot. It's the first beginning of something. It has not even differentiated into yin and yang yet. Right? It's still just one thing. It hasn't developed into two things. Even though yin and yang, in a certain sense, are one thing, they're also two things. Right? All right. What's happening is this symbol for Wu Ji is undergoing a change, and it's slowly changing into Bija. In a human being, you might say that's the beginning of a mental impulse. And then it turns into the beginning of action. Yin separates from yang. All right? And then it's going to turn into the fourth and final stage, Wan Wu. What does Wan Wu mean in Chinese?
Well, we know Wu means nothing. Or zero.
Oh no, you don't understand Chinese. The word Wu probably means, honestly, I'm not exaggerating, at least 50 different things. It depends on how you pronounce it, and it depends on its context. Right? You know, we have the same homophones in English. So you could say, do you hear? Here. Right here, do you hear? It's the same sound, but we spell it differently and we understand it differently by the context. So Wan Wu, the Wu is not the same Wu as in Wu Ji. Just to confuse things. Yeah, Kevin.
Oh.
You want me to tell what it is?
Sure.
1,000 things.
It's actually the 10,000 things, right? Wan Wu means literally 10,000. And that's a poetic metaphor for the world around us. It's just full of 10,000 things.
And I just have a question about the dots in the Tai Chi symbol.
Yeah.
Are those seeds as well?
Yes, they are actually, but don't necessarily associate
With that seed.
with this seed. They are the beginning. So this fish here on top, that's usually considered the yang side of thing. But that little eye there is actually yin. And what it means is when yang is at its greatest extent, it's already beginning to change into yin. And then it changes into yin. And when yin is at its greatest extent, that little eye there is yang. And that means yang is already growing within yin. So it just keeps going. So I don't think of them as seeds in the same way as this. I think of them as eyes. Originally, these two shapes here, like this, were considered to be fish. They're two fish, one fish here and one fish here, yang and yin. It doesn't mean that they had any connection with fish per se. They just look like fish a little bit, right? Okay, what's the symbol for 10,000 things?
It's all
Solid.
you have to fill it up. Oh. Oh, that's cool.
I don't know whether I can draw this well standing sideways here. Kind of like that. All right.
Flower.
It's a beautiful flower, right? Now, there's lots of different ways that you can look at this. There are many ways to define cosmology, metaphysical cosmologies in different traditions. This is just one way, but it's kind of the way that we use, right? So if we think of just an individual human body, right? Which one of these is your physical body? Ran?
Which one of these is the physical body?
Which one of these represents the physical body?
Feels like the lower one, the bottom
Yes.
one.
Physical, right? Which one represents the energy body?
Tai Chi.
Taiji.
The Tai Chi. Which one represents the mental body?
Ija.
Ija.
Which one represents the spiritual body?
First one.
Right? There's some other things that you can gain from this. There are also evolutionary ways of looking at this. One of the Zen koans is, what was the shape of your face before you were born? What was the shape of your face before you were born? The answer's up here on the board.
Fish. Fish.
You're thinking of biological evolution. Another way to say evolution is manifestation. All right. This is a metaphysical cosmology. They're talking about manifestation. At this level, Wan Wu, everything is manifest. This is the manifest universe. All right. There's my body. There's that wall. There's computers. This is all manifest. But up here at this level, nothing is manifest. It's Wu Ji. Right? Nothing is there except potential.
Mm.
So you can look at this sequence as developmental, right? Or as manifestation. If you have to manifest in the world, you have to go through these stages. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everything starts in Wu Ji. But it has no shape or form, no nama. All you Buddhists out there, no namarupa. Male namarupa, male. None. And yet, in potential, it still exists here. Then some little something, some little idea, right, starts, and it begins to manifest, and finally it manifests physically. Make sense?
Yeah.
Everything in the world follows that sequence. Now, if you're on a spiritual path, what do you do? Right? In relationship to this arrow, here you are. Now you're down here at the manifest level. You want to go on your spiritual path? Yes, exactly. You go back up. And you struggle with that. So this is a map. Right? This is a map of the way the world works. What do all circles have in common? Each of these circles is different, but they all have some things in common. What is the main thing that every circle has that every other circle also has?
The same center?
The same center. Well, it has a center. And in this case, yes, they are the same center. So the center of the physical body is actually also the center of the energy body, which is the center of the mental body, and it's the center of the spiritual body. So in our tradition, if you want to take this upward path of development, what you do is you pay attention to those centers and bring them into harmony and alignment. So you don't have to do all this other fancy spiritual work. What you have to do is
Find the center.
is find your own center. Find the center inside yourself. And then you begin to cultivate that. I wish it was just as easy as finding it and it's all over. But what happens when you find it is it's a little tentative at first. Right? It's sort of like a ghost that moves in and out of your consciousness. But as you pay attention to it more and more, gradually you become more and more aware of it. Right? And then we do Qigong and Tai Chi. Qigong and Tai Chi is about this. Right? It's about the interface between the mental body and the energy body. In other words, what am I doing and how do I do it? Right? So we've been talking about all the bits and pieces that are involved with that and different ways of looking at it. Yin and Yang cycles, looking at Xin Yi, looking at Neigong. Xin Yi is about the mental side. Neigong is about the Tai Chi side. So what you're doing is you're working the interface between those two circles. And that brings those two circles slowly together. It can take a long time. It can take 10 years. It can take 20 years. On the other hand, what else have you got to do? All right? You're gradually bringing the centers of those two circles into alignment. And when you've done that, you've got the center of this whole sequence. The physical body, as you bring these two circles together, the physical body will slowly come together with it too. As the physical body comes together with it, then the spiritual body will last. It doesn't matter, you could be in a wheelchair. It doesn't matter whether or not you are. All that matters is that you work the interface between the mind and the energy body. And you'll notice something about this path. It's, in a sense, it's not about your personal psychology. It's not about what happened to you when you were a child. It's not about what happened in your culture 1,000 years ago. It's about right now. All right? It's just about your mind as a thing that has intentions and makes decisions to move to the left, to move to the right, to go up, to go down. Very simple. All right? And then your energy body to accomplish those things. Again, it's very simple. You just keep working that. It's a way of approaching things without any narrative. There's no personal narrative in this. This is just science. You could just say it's the science of movement. Right? It's a very ancient science, but it really is a science. And then your physical body will get healthier and healthier and will come in there. And what Master Feng used to say is once you get a harmonization between your mental body, your energy body, and your physical body, and those three come together, then your spiritual body will show up. Because your spiritual body is always there, only it's looking down on you and going, God, kid, you're messed up. Tell you what, get your stuff together down there and I'll show up. All right? So there's no judgment involved with this. There's no narrative involved with this. It's just, this is the way they think the world works. And it's true that Tai Chi in particular is a martial art. And in its own history, often it has just looked at it as a martial art. And people used to learn it. Why did they used to learn it, Kevin?
Protect the village.
to protect the village, and there was another reason, which was to get a job. Get a job doing what? Working security. They would hire out to caravans moving across China and from China west into the Western lands and back. They were, in other words, they were mercenaries. My master's master was probably the last generation of those who quote unquote protected the village. That was Chen Fa Ke. And they were pretty rough dudes. I'm not even going to tell you what Chen Fa Ke did. But we've got pictures of him. He looks like a very nice old grandpa. And he was a very nice old grandpa. But when he was young, he protected the village. It protected him from what? Bandits. In China, back in the teens and 20s still, and into the 30s, there were gangs of bandits that would wander around the countryside because the dynasty was breaking down, and there was very little law and order in a lot of places in China. And these groups of bandits would come through and raid a village, and et cetera, et cetera. So there had to be somebody there to protect the village. That's what Chen Fa Ke did. And he didn't do it by being nice. Anyway, all right, that's kind of one set. There's a whole nother set that is maybe more exemplified by the Qigong tradition, which is really about let's just call it the developmental side of things. This going up here, right? In fact, this whole thing, right, is a developmental sequence. All right? Human beings have no choice about this one. Boom, here, you come into this world, you're manifest. Now, if you're wise, you'll figure out a way to get back to your own roots. That's the one going up. But you might see the one coming down as yin and the one going up as yang. And again, how do you accomplish it? Bring the circles together. You achieve inner harmony. Right? Not by thinking about it, but by practicing these 4 levels. So if you're going to practice meditation, which level are you practicing? Kevin?
Fuji.
Fuji. When you practice meditation, you're practicing this. Right? When you're practicing Tai Chi, you're practicing both of these. Right? And you're also going to get this. Now, one final thing before you go. Hold on, let me get a book here. All right. The Tao Te Ching. This is the founding document of Taoism. And I hate to say it, but I need to get my cheaters. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of the 10,000 things. Ever desireless, one can see the mystery. Ever desiring, one can see only the manifestations. These two spring from the same source, but differ in name. This appears as darkness. Darkness within darkness. The gate to all mystery. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Okay, the Tao. Where's the Tao on this chart here? It's the eternal Tao. It's the eternal name. The nameless name.
Wuji.
Yes, Wu Ji. So you can draw a line all right? This level, the Wu Ji level, is different from these three. They're all one, and yet this one is different. This is the Tao.
It looks like it could be an iceberg.
Be an iceberg?
Well, like the line that you draw, like an iceberg, it's all one piece, but we think of it as without which you can see. In this case, you can't see it.
Well, that's very true, right? If you invert it, right? This is an iceberg where 90% is above the water, right?
Right.
So that's the level of the water. And these are the manifest levels. Everybody sees the physical. People see this to a degree, and they because we are mental, right? They see the mental, but right, this is when if something was just a mental idea floating around, has no body, no one would see it. If it was just energy, no one would see it. It has to be inside a body, either a book or a tradition or a physical body, something that is physically manifest. Make sense? So this level up above here is the absolute level. This level right? The Wan Wu level is the relative level. The top level is the absolute level. The bottom level is the relative level. What are the two levels in between?
A mix of absolute and relative.
Real.
Yes, that's true. It's true that they are. This is what I call them. All right, it's the intermediate levels. How many of you have ever looked into near-death experiences on YouTube? Look into them. There are hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands of people who are telling you anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour long their personal experiences of near-death experiences. So perhaps some gentleman has a heart attack. He's taken to the hospital. He's coded dead. He's dead for 27 minutes, and then he comes back to life. He's going to tell you what happened in those 27 minutes. And if you listen to these folks, you can tell they're not lying. They're telling you the truth as they understand it. There are a group of those people who are very religious. Guess what they all do? They all meet Jesus. Right? Lots and lots of people who are not religious at all. But underneath the differing clothes that every experience is clothed in, there's a strong similarity between all these experiences. So there's always an out-of-body, almost always an out-of-body experience, which is interesting because very often if they're in an operating theater, they can tell the doctors what the doctors said. All right? Doctors don't want to hear that, but it does happen. And then, you know, they go down a long tunnel and they go into the light and they have these experiences and then they make a decision to come back. And almost instantly they're back in their bodies. They're back into pain and trouble. The pain and trouble of the 10,000 things. All right? I just mention that not to have you believe or not believe in any of those things, but just to look at what they're actually talking about is going back up the escalator. Who's studied Tibetan Buddhism here? Yeah. There are lots of, have you ever read the Book of the Dead?
I've read a book called Luminous Emptiness, which is an interpretation of what the Book of the Dead, which is a misnomer. It does not translate to Book of the Dead.
I know, but that's the English translation.
Right.
So, right, this is why I call this school Luminous Ground. This is the luminous ground.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And there, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is the Bardol Thodol, right, is in a certain way is an instruction manual for those who have already passed on about what they should be doing. And it's meant to be read to the person who has already passed away and explain to him what is happening, right, as the 49 days of the intermediate Bardo goes on. So these experiences are not just found in English language, right, or in modern times. There are records of these things going back thousands of years. Anyway, this is the basic cosmology for our form of Taoism, and it's also the basic developmental side of Tai Chi and Qigong. Any questions?
I'm so happy to have a physical body. I'm not ready to go up there. I'm just enjoying being just physical.
That's good. That's good. You should enjoy. That's the whole idea. All right. However, one thing I can say about this developmental schema here, as we go through life in Wan Wu, amongst the 10,000 things of the manifest world, sometimes we run into difficulties, both personal and collective, cultural and global, and things can get pretty rough. And it's good to know there's a place you can always stand. No matter what happens in Wan Wu, it doesn't matter. Wan Wu could explode and all be gone. This would still be here. Somewhere in the Bible, it says a couple of times, Humanity was created in the image of God. And in Latin, the imago Dei, right? This is the image of God. Wu Ji is the image of God. Some spark, some piece of God came down to here in every one of us, because all of us actually have all four of these levels in us. So to have that image deep within the soul, that's your ultimate ground. It doesn't mean that it's Jewish or that it's Christian or that it's Taoist or that it's Buddhist. All that stuff is bullshit. It's just each of those traditions tries to look at reality and interpret it in the way that their culture allows them to interpret it. But if you look at all of them, they're all essentially saying the same thing. There's something at the absolute level that is still included in the relative level. And all of us have it, and when you get into difficulties, it's nice to know that it's there. Any questions?
No.
All right, we'll see you next time, guys.
Thank you.
Ciao.